What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cosmic Wonder. There has been a lot going on at Disney lately, and of course, remember that Disney owns Marvel Studios and Lucasfilm, and there's been a lot of talk about the heads of these studios stepping down. And of course, one of those people, the Marvel Studios president, is Kevin Feige. And this new report stating that he might step down soon comes as a pretty big disappointment to some, but others are welcoming this. However, if this report is true, then Kevin Feige has some very specific plans that he wants to make sure he follows through with before he leaves Marvel Studios. Now, if you didn't know, current president Kevin Feige has been with Marvel for a really long time. In fact, he was an associate producer on the very first X-Men film released in 2000. From there, he continued to work on many different Marvel films until eventually going on to start the MCU and becoming president of Marvel Studios. Kevin Feige, of course, with the help of others, gave us the Marvel Cinematic Universe, our superhero connected universe, something that really hadn't been done before. So the start of this was really special in that first Avengers film, having these superheroes from separate movies all come together in one. Well, it was just mind-blowing at the time. And generally, the Infinity Saga from Iron Man all the way to Avengers Endgame is very, very loved by fans and held very close to our hearts. However, unfortunately, the same really can't be said for a lot of people for the multiverse saga, the saga that we are in right now that came after Infinity War. Phase 4, Phase 5, and Phase 6. And although it did start off strong with WandaVision and Loki, and would have some pretty big hits like Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, unfortunately, many fans were kind of underwhelmed with many projects that Marvel Studios had created for Phase 4. And some fans felt that they didn't exactly knock it out of the park with Phase 5 either, giving us some great projects, but some lackluster ones as well. So sadly, over time, we have heard "In Feige we trust" kind of go away, and some fans say Kevin Feige has lost his touch and should probably be replaced as the president of Marvel Studios, blaming Kevin Feige for the poor quality of films and shows that they believe they have gotten from Marvel Studios. Well, those fans might be pretty happy to hear that it sounds like Kevin Feige has plans to eventually step down and retire, but he just wants to do a few things before he leaves. According to the insider My Time to Shine Hello, Kevin Feige is indeed set to retire as Marvel Studios president, but it won't be until after the X-Men reboot is released. Now, there's a lot more to this report, and yes, it does involve Star Wars, but I'll break it all down. One is you might have heard the reports recently that Kathleen Kennedy is planning to step down from Lucasfilm. Well, the insider My Time to Shine Hello, who was also reporting this about Kevin Feige, reported last September that Kathleen Kennedy would be stepping down in 2025. And for the last couple of days, everybody has been reporting that Kathleen Kennedy is thinking about stepping down. And when all of these reports came out and everybody was talking about her replacement, we had some insiders come out, and even reporters and journalists who work at some major trade companies come out and state that the replacements that Disney is looking at for Kathleen Kennedy over at Lucasfilm to be in charge of Star Wars are 1, Dave Filoni, which is very obvious, but 2, Kevin Feige. And Kevin Feige does love Star Wars. In fact, he was supposed to have his own Star Wars movie. I mean, a lot of people were promised Star Wars movies by Kathleen Kennedy. We had Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins supposed to be getting her own Star Wars movie. Taika Waititi, the director of Thor Ragnarok and Thor Love and Thunder, was supposed to get his own. And according to what Kathleen Kennedy said yesterday, he's still working on the script and they could still make that movie. Then we have Sean Levy, the director of Deadpool and Wolverine. He has his own Star Wars movie, which is releasing after the movie The Mandalorian and Grogu. There's more, but basically a lot of people were given Star Wars projects. Kevin Feige was one of them. And there was actually talk about him going over to Star Wars a few years ago. Clearly, Disney likes Kevin Feige. He's made them a ton of money. In fact, he is the highest grossing film producer of all time, and his combined worldwide box office gross is over $31 billion. However, with the exception of Deadpool and Wolverine, recently the Marvel Studios films have not been grossing that much. So maybe Kevin Feige thinks that it's time for him to step down. Time to tackle something new like Star Wars and have somebody new come in for Marvel. However, as the report states, he's not planning on leaving before he gets the X-Men off the ground. And it sounds like if this is true, he has a pretty good plan. And it honestly would make sense for him to kind of consider retiring since the X-Men are now coming, because again, that's how he got started off. It's basically come full circle. Kevin Feige always wanted an MCU ballpark that could have all of the characters possible in it. no limitations. Now, of course, there are some limitations like with the Hulk and with Spider-Man, but for team-up movies, anything is possible. And now Kevin Feige can do whatever he wants with the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, the Avengers. He's finally getting what he wants. So it would make sense that if he is indeed planning on retiring or going over to Lucasfilm, he'd still want to see the X-Men come into the MCU and produce an X-Men film. And Kathleen Kennedy did confirm that she is working on a plan for her succession. So she is planning that with Bob Iger, but it's not going to be immediate. It's not going to be like tomorrow. But could it be when Kevin Feige finally makes his X-Men movie, which we believe is coming in 2027? That's a possibility. And from what we've heard from reliable insider Daniel RPK, not only has Kevin Feige brought back the Russo Brothers to direct and help write Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, with the help of Stephen McFeely, of course, but we've also heard that he's planning on keeping them around even after Avengers Secret Wars is over. The reason being for this is because Avengers Secret Wars is reportedly going to give us a soft reboot of the MCU. So a new universe moving forward after Avengers Secret Wars, where the Avengers, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and whoever else all exist finally in the same main universe. And from what we know, the next phase of the MCU is going to start off with the X-Men. And according to Daniel RBK, Kevin Feige wants the Russo brothers to handle kind of this transition into this new universe with the X-Men. So he wants them to help with the next phase of the MCU, including possibly even directing the X-Men film and writing it, with Stephen McFeely and possibly Christopher Marcus as well. And perhaps he could be asking the Russo brothers to help him with that so he makes sure that the X-Men debut in a phenomenal way in the MCU, the new X-Men team that is. Of course, we've already had other X-Men in the MCU like Deadpool and Wolverine. We saw a lot there. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, the post-credit scene for the Marvels. We've had some, but we are going to get an entirely new roster of X-Men characters in the next phase of the MCU. And it sounds like Kevin Feige really is doing what he can to make sure it goes very well and the X-Men get started off in the MCU with a bang. But could he be putting that extra care into it also because he might be leaving Marvel Studios? He has now devoted over 25 years to Marvel, which is very admirable, and he's done an amazing job. But that is a long time. He definitely has the money to retire at this point. Money is not a problem for Kevin Feige. He could have retired probably at any point in the last 10 years. But maybe he does need kind of something new to go to. Maybe that is Star Wars, and when Kathleen Kennedy finally makes that announcement that she has officially stepped down, maybe Kevin Feige takes her place, or maybe it's Dave Filoni and Kevin Feige just retires or casually consults with the studios, because the information that he has gathered over those 25 plus years is almost invaluable. I say almost because if he did offer some consulting, I'm sure he'd put a pretty number on that for how much it would cost Disney to get him as a consultant. I'm one of the people who think Kevin Feige has done a great job, and I would like him to stick around. I'd like to see what he can do with the X-Men, not just for the first movie they released, but for an entire phase. But again, 25 plus years he's devoted to Marvel. It's very admirable, but I can see how it might be time for him to step aside. If he wants to get some rest and retire, I completely understand that. If he wants to jump over to Star Wars because he wants something new, I also get that as well. But either way, it is really sad if this is going to happen. And it will eventually happen no matter what. He's not going to be the president of Marvel Studios forever. It just so happens that he might be retiring in about 2 years. We'll have to wait and see on this, but in the meantime, go ahead. Let me know your thoughts. Would you like Kevin Feige to stick around for a lot longer, or are you one of the fans who think that maybe it's time for him to step aside? Leave all your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest MCU news, rumors, or leaks. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.